it is with each and every election. It's a huge responsibility being the ones to carry the information, report the information, bring the information to the fore, because people are actually making their decisions based on some of the information that we churn out. So we don't take it lightly whatsoever, this huge responsibility. And as I said, we go behind the scenes, more stories, and so on and so forth. And for me, that's the most exciting thing. And as Johnny says, we're doing this with you every step of the way. We're taking you along on this journey because we are, of course, your election command center.
Well, we're working at phone lines to try and raise, because we do know that, for example, the Movement for Change, Alan Kojo Tremantin, doesn't have a representative at the Inter-Party Advisory Committee, IPAC. And we want to find out, for example, from the Deputy Director of Policy of the Movement for Change, Courage Nobi, we want to ask him how his movement feels about this. Courage, good morning. Thank you for your time.
Good morning, my brother.
Great.
As always, it's good to discuss the progress of this country with you. We are very much glad for, platforms like yours that have opened up the democracy of the nation and continue to work to expand and to improve the democracy of this country. So kudos to you and your team for the good work that you are doing for Mother Ghana.
Great. Let me begin with you and ask you. You are not a political party. Yours is a movement. Your flag bearer will run as an independent candidate, which means that you have no representative really, as we speak, at IPAC. How does that feel? How are you connected, and how are you kept in the loop?
All right. Thank you, my brother. I think if you check the 1992 Constitution, it creates two avenues from which an individual may ascend to the high office. One, through a political party, and two, as an independent candidate. But unfortunately, our experience as a nation the past 32 years has restricted the entire architecture and infrastructure around the elections to political parties. And even worse than that, with the entrenchment of a duopoly, i.e. the NPP and the NDC. So you would find that at many different levels, there is somewhat an oversight, exclusion of, independent candidates and other factors that are coming up. And that is one of the things that continuously militates against having that powerful third force. That many times you hear in the commentary. For example, a lot of media persons would always, in the analysis, talk about the need for a third force and all of that. However, when it's time to even open up their platform to engage other powerful forces like the Movement for Change or other independent candidates, to begin that process of ensuring that arrival of that third force on the team, then you see this inertia on their part. And the same thing is plaguing the Electoral Commission. A lot of the arrangements in the way the Electoral Commission operates is actually fixated on political parties. And even further, the duopoly. And that is a very serious, if I may say, affront on the Constitution. We are not giving full and proper expression to the desires of the Constitution that sets up the tone for how things are managed in this country. So IPAC, yes, it's not a constitutional body, but you say any arrangement you make should go towards achieving the aspirations of the Constitution.
Right.
So if you're setting up an inter-party, just by its name, you have already excluded a huge part of what the Constitution envisages, that individuals will also put themselves up to be president.
I see. Now let me put this one to you. I'm sure that you have also been monitoring meetings between the Electoral Commission and the security management bodies that will lead a charge for the 2024 elections. Have you been satisfied with the engagement so far? And have you been in the loop again, I ask?
I continue to get worried at every turn of that aspect in this year's electioneering process. And that is because we of the Movement for Change believe that there should be no bloodletting in the process of electing a leader. Nobody should be battered, assaulted in any form, in a process that is just to see us arrive at who leads and manages the affairs of this country. And so we would expect the government of the day, which has ultimate responsibility over the security, and the Electoral Commission, which manages the process of the elections, to be mindful in the way they conduct themselves in order to build greater confidence, from all parties and stakeholders concerned. But we are not seeing that dispassionate, arrangement and engagement that there is supposed to be. I mean, I have always maintained that it is worrying that in 2022, August, 2 appointments were made to the high offices of National Security Coordinator and the Director of the BNI, now NIB, and both are political party activists of the ruling party. I'm talking about Nana Tobra and Ebi Asmani. So you do not expect any discerning, actor or player in this year's process to have confidence, one, in the national security architecture.
Okay.
That they will be dispassionate in the way they conduct their affairs. Because the appointment to that office is in itself, or the person who have been appointed, are colored. That kind of act smacks on irresponsibility on the part of the president, who is the appointing officer. Then to top that up, coming from the back of the 2 by-elections that were recently held, where the ruling party complained about the conduct of the IGP because they couldn't have their way. A deputy IGP responsible for operations have been appointed 4 months to the election. Then it looks like somebody is building the architecture for rigging. And that increases the stakes, and then breeds mistrust. That level of mistrust will then put followers of these leaders on edge. So everybody becomes suspicious of everybody. And in that kind of process, it portends marring the process that is supposed to be peaceful, free, and fair. Even the media, it's not spared in the process, because when you have a security service that is colored or partisan, it means that you have security officials who take interest in one party over the other. So a journalist who is doing his dispassionate work might suffer some damages from that security officer rather than being protected, to be able to do his or her work, to advance the democracy of this country. We've seen the EC put out publications of appointing some officials to play roles in the election in a somewhat clandestine manner. All of these do not build the confidence, the trust, that we want to have, that will ultimately lead to that free, fair, and peaceful election that Ghanaians desire. And I think that the media, civil society, international organizations, all well-meaning bodies and Ghanaians should start speaking up, so that the Electoral Commission and particularly the government begin to conduct itself properly.
The 2024 voters register is robust and credible. Ignore assertions that the voters register is not fit for the 2020 elections. # let the citizens know. This is by the Electoral Commission. What are your comments on this?
Again, it's marks of irresponsible conduct. You see, the Electoral Commission must know that it is a referee. Managing the commission is not a business. And so they are not in competition with the political parties or the independent candidates or all other stakeholders. So if any party, any stakeholder raises a question, the first thing you want to do is to engage on the query they have, but not to go into media war with them and to be putting out some of these serious things. For example, the opposition and NDC has said that its deputy secretary, regional deputy secretary, is not in the register. Is it possible that there are more people who are not on the register, but because they may not be high profile, it's not yet caught the attention of stakeholders and all that? So the first thing you want to do is engage, find out what the issues are, resolve it amicably so that you build confidence. You cannot do propaganda with such a process. And unfortunately, that is what it seems the Electoral Commission is doing in its communication. You know, unfortunately, it seems to align with the conduct of the government, governance by propaganda. You know, it doesn't augur well. It doesn't augur well. So the Electoral Commission, I have always maintained, open up, be more engaging, be more welcoming. If you are finding biometric verification devices with unqualified persons, that is a worry. Then you cannot tell us that the register is clean and credible, because that device contains data of electorate.
I see.
Can we have a robust, transparent audit of the register? Because the register is the foundational document for this election. When we have that process and it's transparent, and everybody, not just the major stakeholders like the independent candidates and the political parties, but civil society, media, international organizations, everybody in on it, open and transparent. When you have that kind of process take place, then there will be more confidence in the system. I mean, look at what it took. The Electoral Commission itself flouted its own promises to release the register to the stakeholders. So about 3, 4, 5 different deadlines that they themselves gave, they violated it in the run-up to the exercise, the verification exercises that are ongoing. When you are behaving like that and questions are raised, you don't come and answer that all is well. Then it begins to smack off or smell of certain level of mischief. And the Electoral Commission cannot do mischief with this year's election. When they do that, it will not augur well. There may be bloodshed, unfortunately, and that will be squarely on their head.
I see.
They shouldn't do that. We deserve to have an election after which all Ghanaians are still alive and safe.
The National Peace Council has been going on about Peace Pact and asking people to come to the Center for the Peace and Security of Ghana. What does your flag bearer think of a Peace Pact, for example?
You know, Alan Chamatin, the gentleman and firm person that he is, has always, you know, represented that peaceful conduct in public office. So he believes that, yes, it is important that the peace of the nation is not compromised in any way, you know, in going into this election and beyond. And in all his engagements, he has told us who are working with him, he has told his followers, you know, to be peaceful in everything that they do. So you realize that even the way we engage electorate in our community engagements and all of that has been without the rancor and the troubling conduct that mostly characterizes the duopoly. So that is our interest and focus going into this election. But again, he can give all the assurances that he can to his followers for them to conduct themselves in a manner that is representative of responsible citizens. But if that young person, 19-year-old, at Odogono, number 4, polling station, realizes there that everything is being done to steal his mandate, such that his wish for an industrial enterprise economy that Alan has promised him does not look like being a reality. That person, for want of defending his right to work, his right to earn a good salary, and his right to survive, may take up issues into his own hands. At which time Alan Kyerematen will not be there, or Courage Nobi will not be there to say calm down or relax. And that is why the conduct of the Electoral Commissioner and her commission is very, very important in building that confidence leading to the
I see. How do you then bring everybody to the center? This is the posture of Alan Kyerematen, but you know what the NDC's national chairman has said, his flag bearer, even though they have not taken a bold decision to sign or not to sign the peace pact yet. But then they say, look, we have been signing these peace pacts and people go about doing things. People are making utterances. We will not sacrifice this election on the altar of peace. We will not hand over power. Some also say, okay, we are also ready, boot for boot, and here and there. How do we harmonize the situation so that this just doesn't become a symbolic activity, but it becomes a reality that we live? Peace.
All right, my brother, I think first off, I have been quite disappointed with the way the Peace Council has been quiet up until now. You know, peace building is a process. It's not an event. And so one would have expected that on the back of history, particularly recent history where after a major election, 8 lives were lost, you know, the opposition believed that these are 8 activists, and so these were acts that were perpetrated by the state in collusion with security agencies or what have you. Anybody who is positioned to manage the process of peace building should have known that this year's election, particularly as far as the duopoly is concerned, would need much more to be done, you know, to build the confidence in the process and all. The call for signing a peace pact seems to be coming a bit too late. And so now I believe that in the interest of peace, the National Peace Council needs to go beyond its usual modus operandi to begin the process of bringing on many more stakeholders, you know, other people like respectable people in chieftaincy institution, far more. In fact, it must spread its tentacles wide to bring a lot more people on board so that we can put in the work needed to build the confidence that is needed before you talk about signing a pact. Because if I go and sign a pact and at the end of the day, nothing will come out of the pact except that I have just signed.
I see.
Then it's a meaningful exercise.
I see. Courage, so thank you very much indeed for your time. We are grateful that you could spend your morning with us.
It's a pleasure, my
Thank you.
brother.
That's Courage Nobi there. He's the Deputy Director of Policy of the Movement for Change, joining us here on Sunrise on 3FM 92.7. Michael Ogbodu is here and Helen Apiampofo here as well. Okay, now we've listened to our very first guest. What are you thinking?
I think first off, you know, if it was just one political party that's raising concerns with the EC and its engagement, we would have said that maybe it's a peculiar situation. But when you are hearing it, other parties also share similar concerns, then it means that it's probably about time that the EC takes a second look at its approach in dealing with the political parties and maybe find a way of managing the communication and interaction so that at least it lessens the tension amongst them, and we see that sense of cohesion. They don't necessarily have to agree outrightly, but at least we need to feel that sense of together, because it's almost as if there's this pensive posturing towards the EC and likewise. And we are hoping that all of that will be de-escalated way before the election period starts, so that at least everybody feels that this indeed is a free and fair election, and there's no cause for concern whatsoever. But if already before the main game starts you feel as if you are being disenfranchised, of course that's not an exciting place to start from. But these may all just be, for want of a better expression, just perceptions. So that's where the EC comes in here, in how it tackles some of these issues to help clear the air.
Helen?
An interesting point there at the start of the conversation. Courage talks about you were asking about the Inter-Party Advisory Committee, IPAC, and whether or not they feel left out, not being a part of it, to actually, be brought to the center. And he talks about the Constitution. We know Article 63(1) says you don't have to be affiliated with a particular party to be president. So I think there's some loophole in there that isn't ensuring that all those who are wanting to be president are fully part of the entire process. And I think the movement for change is one that is widely recognized across the country as a serious movement because of its presidential candidate in the person of Alan Kyerematen. So quite interesting there that even they, with the gravitas that they have, they are still left out of some of these important conversations. How much more some of these smaller movements that are springing up. That's something I think we need to pay attention to, because not everybody is coming on the ticket of a party. That's my main
21
takeaway.
minutes to the top of the hour 9 as we get ready for the big launch. I want to play something from Pastor Joe Beecham for you to bring you some peace in your heart. peace and pray for it and work towards it and ensure that the things we commit to are actually brought into being by our actions, composure, character, and methodology of doing things. Now, again, let me come back to you guys and ask this question about we're not talking about addressing impending food crisis.
Oh, yes.
Food is important to every living being because we eat to live. That's non-negotiable. Now, beyond that, have we been paying lip service to the food? Because the ordinary person on the streets is interested in how food is, one, available, and two, affordable. The food can be available and not be affordable. So they want the food to be available and they want it to be affordable as well. That question, has it been answered by the political class over the years?
I think there's a bit of a disconnect with that. Interestingly, yesterday I was listening to a Greek minister, Dr. Brian Acheampong, speaking on a different platform, and the interviewer was asking, okay, this food drought, let's take it back to the dams. One village, one dam. And let's assess the impact, because the whole point is that if we've got stored water in these dams, then for crop farming you can simply rely on the water, and if there's a drought like we're experiencing at the moment, then your situation is sorted, isn't it? Because you have reserves of water. Listening to Dr. Brian Acheampong, he was adamant, because the interviewer says, I put it to you that this One Village One Dam initiative has failed if we are struggling because of this drought. And in fact, he was adamant that everything is fine, that it is in fact working as it should, and that the initiative is not a failure. I stayed on to try and make head and tails of why his assertion is that this is going in the right direction. I'll be honest with you, maybe I should have stayed on longer, but I couldn't get the input.
This morning I asked a question. I mean, these were questions that I wanted to ask yesterday, but of course I was not in the best of shape. But I had asked the questions today. Not just One Village, One Dam. There's also One District, One Factory. There's planting for food and jobs. There's rearing for food and jobs. There's planting for export and rural development. There's one constituency, one warehouse. You see how they are all connected. Because if you have the dams and the dams irrigate the farms and the produce come, we have where to store them, right?
That's
one
right.
Constituency, one warehouse. And then we will use what we don't want to store to feed the factories, right? And then we will use what we get from the factory for export, and then to create jobs along all those lines. If we are now talking about food shortage in the magnitude that we're talking about it, and just a few months ago, the same Dr. Brian Acheampong was out there, doing a pull and push with buffer stock people and caterers who were owed their money, who had to go and picket at buffer stock for their monies to be a Greek ministry and all of that. That means that then when we were telling the people that all was well, all indeed was not well. Because in 3-4 months, who went to eat all the food that we have stored up? In 3-4 months, how did we suddenly become a country that is not an exporter of food? In 3-4 months, where did all the improved seedlings go? In 3-4 months, where did all the dams suddenly become thirsty? In 3-4 months, all the monies that so far we have pushed into these initiatives, laudable ideas, nice slogans as they were, and we still have these problems as if we have never had any of these initiatives ever announced to us, even on paper. There's a problem somewhere, Obodu.
Very true. And you see, like I mentioned earlier, Musa Dankwa's survey shows that key issues for voters is the economy. 89% of the voters believe that is what is top priority for them. And under the economy, we know key on the list there is food.
Right.
And you see, for us, especially as a country, with all the fine policies on paper that we have, it's quite concerning that we still, it's as if we are addressing symptoms and not dealing with the main problem. Because you see, tell me, if just because of drought, we are already at a concerning state with our food security, then there's a problem, especially when we have, like you said, Planting for Food and Jobs phase 1, and now we have 2.0.
That's just one. Rearing for food and jobs has not come. Planting for export and rural development, it has not come.
Forget about even the names and
the names are important too, so we know that we spent money.
When you were talking about Brian Chapon speaking the last time, you see, he made a comment in one of our interviews with Pakwesi Asare that the Peasant Farmers Association never seemed to see anything good in what he does. And see, that in itself smacks of a problem, because if as a ministry, some of your key stakeholders seem to have a problem with what you are doing, then there really is a problem you probably are not paying attention to, and you're probably not realizing that maybe your efforts are not reaching the people that they're supposed to reach. Because remember that the Peasant Farmers Association earlier this year, I think it's a month ago, released a paper that a researcher they had done that about over 70% of farmers have not been registered under Planting for Food and Jobs phase 2. It's a great policy, but the bottom line is that if you are not implementing the thing in a way that benefits those who are your key stakeholders, then there's a problem. And you see, this food issue, we really need to sit down as a people and fix this, because until our food security is in our hands, we are never going to be economically independent.
I mean, so Professor Kantong and the rest have been talking about fertilizer, and we've been talking about many other things. We'll come back to that food conversation, but let's engage Mustafa Gbande. He's the Deputy General Secretary of the National Democratic Congress, joining us on Zoom now. Mustafa, good morning and thank you for your time.
Good morning and thank you for having me, my brother.
Now, we want to hear from stakeholders what they make ahead of the elections. Number one, your party has had cause to question whether or not the register that we have is fit for purpose. Have you been able to iron out those differences?
Well, thank you very much. I think basically the register issue, we have written to Electoral Commission. We have written to Electoral Commission stating the various discrepancies that we have discovered based on vigorous analysis that we have conducted on the voters register, the provisional voters register, and the voted.
Hello, Mustafa.
Used for the exhibition as a various huge. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead. I can hear you.
Yeah, so we have discovered huge discrepancies. Discrepancies that are very fundamental and very primary to the compilation of the register, the credibility of the register, and the ability of it to be called a register. Because what we have currently are an assemblage of figures does not reflect the status of a register. Thank God the Electoral Commission have responded and gave us September to organize an emergency IPAC meeting, hoping that the matters will be discussed. But they first agreed and accepted that the register we have is currently provisional, and that they agree also that there can be possibilities of discrepancies for which will be dealt with. But the discrepancies and the nature of how they have come to exist are more fraudulent, more criminal, more intentional, very deliberate. For example, how come that people have not worked to transfer their votes? They have not consented for their votes to be transferred, but yet they have been transferred. We've discovered names appearing in transfer lists when they don't have the originating polling stations. And all of these matters are matters that a prudent commission, a serious commission, will get to know that the provisional voter register they are sending was worthy of being cleaned up before being sent to for this kind of exercise. You cannot send raw data, you sit at the headquarters, do nothing, only take figures, combine them, and claim that you are aware of the errors and that they will be cleaned. They are
With Mustafa Gbande, Deputy General Secretary of the NDC. In studio here with us is also Mr. Albert Ahin, the Chief Servant at CODEO. Mustafa, thank you very much for staying with us. And you were making a point about the register. Your flag bearer, your party chairman, they have all raised questions. You seem to be reiterating the points that they have made. But what is the basis then?
Well, the basis is that fundamental to the work of the Commission that requires a clear commitment to lead the path of transparency, to gain consensus of a credible institution and its exercise, to gain trust of stakeholders, in fact, even donors. There was a fundamental need of prudency, carefulness, and all seriousness that should be coming from the Commission when it is tackling a work, particularly leading to an election that has high stakes of interest. You will not only carry data or figures, call it a register full of fundamental errors from discrepancies that renders that particular document useless. And then turn around and say that, okay, we know that this is a provisional register. And so we are hopeful that we'll clean it and correct it as before election. No, we are also aware that there is a dying grand scheme to duplicate, to balloon the register in favor of the MPP.
Are you not over tackling the electoral management body over this register issue?
We will not be here if the Electoral Commission haven't given room for us to get here. It's because of their recklessness, their lack of seriousness to work. But I say that whatever you see today is not a mistake. It is deliberate. It's very intentional because they didn't foresee the NDC or a political party taking the issue to this level of seriousness and doing fundamental analysis. They didn't anticipate that. They think that it will happen at the blind side. How on earth can someone not trigger a transfer of his name only to find his name being transferred to another place? How on earth can you have people's names purported to have been transferred, but they don't have origination polling stations or previous voting centers? How on earth can you just move names out of a constituency without recourse to the individuals who have it? It means that they are just playing with a figure without respect to the law that forms the Commission. And that is the danger. So you see, when you have institutions such as Peace Council doing firefighting and calling for political parties to be calm, if there's chaos in this country, you cannot blame the political parties. You cannot blame MPP. You cannot blame NDC. But a reckless, incompetent electoral commission. Okay? Because they are intentionally pretending not to be able to do the work. When there are discrepancies on a voting day, where a voter went to register holding a voter's ID card, but yet cannot find his name to be able to vote, it's chaotic enough. It's a fundamental source of chaos and conflict. Because the person has gone to your station, have registered, is holding a certificate that he has registered, only to come back for your own administrative errors. The person suffers a consequence of not being able to register. The person is denied being part of selecting and choosing a president of his country or of his choice. Is that not chaotic enough?
Now, we're going to this election also knowing that some machines which are used for registration and verification of votes that you talk about that have been transferred without the tacit approval of those who have been affected, missing. I mean, the Electoral Commission began by denying, but they have finally admitted, and they say the authorities are dealing with that. Does that come to compound the issues that you're raising? And looking at the timing as well, is this the best time?
Look, it is only a reflection of the fact that gadgets of our Electoral Commission are on retail in the market. And that is how compromised, and that is how, if you call, vulnerable our voter information, including sensitive information about you and I, have become. Because gadgets that the Electoral Commission will use to organize a credible election are now being sold at the marketplace. And these are security information. These are sensitive gadgets that capture data exclusive of you and I that should not be found at the marketplace. And so I have always talked about the fact that this commission is reckless. This commission is not doing its work well. This commission has deliberately slept on their work because in the first place, when the NDC raised issues about the inventory, about audits of these missing DVD machines, assisting the Electoral Commission to provide 34 answers based on which we can trade a lead. Because we suspect that the people who have stolen these devices will undertake what we call reverse engineering, pirating of systems that will compromise the original Electoral Commission system. The Electoral Commission gave deaf ear. The MPP is tacitly quiet, and their quietness is more suspicious because for any serious political party going into election should be concerned about some of these things. Much as the NDC does not want the commission to help us, we are just trying to ensure that the Electoral Commission offers Ghanaians its mandate of fulfilling a transparent, credible, free and fair election. Let the will of the people prevail. We believe that if there's any credible election organized today, there's no Ghanaian who will comfortably vote for the NDC and the MPP. There's no Ghanaian, that will vote for the MPP. Because one, they have no work. Two, they have been fraudulent. Three, they are very incompetent and very insensitive government. So people will not vote. So the MPP's quietness when we are calling for credible processes is more suspicious. Look at these illegal transfers that have occurred. The MPP is quiet. They've lost their voice. Meanwhile, we are going into election. It's either because they are incompetently not being able to detect these things, or the discrepancies will potentially benefit them at the pool. But thank God, we have an NDC that have suffered twice in an election. And so we are well awake and willing to be vigilant to ensure that the right things are done. So we are not overblowing the issue.
I see.
It is more serious when gadgets of the commission are found at the marketplace. That is not supposed to be the case.
So how do we resolve this matter? How do we come around the table because we have an election? We're looking at the peace and security. And in West Africa and Africa, Ghana is a beacon of hope. So if the hope now is becoming hopeless, then where do we all run to? How do we come around the table to fix this once and for all?
Ghana will continue to be a beacon of hope. We have had a situation where in this country we voted without a voters register before. And there was a president being declared. We have had a situation in this country where there's features that we have, we didn't have them. People voted and there was peace. There will still be peace. The NDC and its supporters, and including the Ghanaians who have been victimized by this government, are committed to a peaceful election because Ghana will not die. Ghana will live on. But the Electoral Commission must come clear to the public now and say, look, we have messed up, help us to clean our mess. Because clearly we can't go into this election like this. I'm sorry, there will be chaos. There will be chaos if we go like this. Because a commission that does not know that I'm taking 10 figures instead of 5 figures is an incompetent, fraudulent commission. Turn around to say that it was error or it was a mistake. That mistake is dire. That mistake has huge consequences. That mistake is dangerous. And so if there is any chaos today in this country, it is the Electoral Commission that has been used as a conduit to fuel that chaos.
That is why Peace Council, CODIO, and other institutions should be more interested in getting the Electoral Commission to do right with the law, to do right by the law, to do right by the people. That is the only guarantee for a peaceful election going into 2024. Let the commission, let the Peace Council sit with the commission. Let the commission come clean. This issue of finding some 50,000 figures, 80,000 figures, AAE in Central Region constituency, about 80,000 votes have been transferred out of their constituency without their knowledge. How can you say this is a mistake?
See, well, Mr. Albert Ahin of CODIO is in the studio. Maybe it's only fair that we let Mr. Ahin also respond to the fact that you are asking his organization and the Peace Council and others to come to the center and make sure that this is achieved. Mr. Ahin, you quickly want to take a bite on this one?
Yeah, okay.
What do you say to what Mustafa Bandi has said?
Yeah, good morning to your listeners and good morning to Mr. Mustafa. Mustafa, I've just heard all your complaints. And what I would say is that, yes, it is true that without a good register, you cannot have a good election. And I've always maintained this. When the register is bad, you would also have a bad election.
Right.
But the most important thing is that this has come at a time that we can do some cleaning or some remedial action ought to be taken before we get into the election itself. So I'm particularly happy that these findings are coming out. But let me caution you also that let us hasten slowly. Let the commission do some introspection. Let them investigate about all these allegations. Yesterday, for example, I spoke to the regional director of the Northern Region. And he was alluding to the fact that the transfers that were supposed to have been made from, is it Tamale to somewhere around Pusiga, is it, in the Upper East region? Whoever is supposed to have been accused is denying it. That he has never handled any such thing. He doesn't know anything about it, and so forth and so on. My prayer is that we should let the commission come out to answer these allegations, to either accept or deny. You know, it is too early to say that these things happened. It could also be that maybe somebody pressed a button somewhere and these things happened. We don't know. So I'm told the commission would want to meet the NDC on this matter. Let us hope that something good is going to come out of it. But my happiness stems from the fact that at least it didn't happen at the time of the election. That would have been chaotic.
Right. But Ms. Ahin, you do get it that if the Electoral Commission continues to make the slips that they are making, for example, telling the whole country that, look, we use Corel Draw to collate figures, when we all know that Corel Draw is not the software to use. I mean, so too many slips, and each time the slip is made, it does appear that the Electoral Commission rather comes into some kind of a media war with whoever is asking the questions, as opposed to, you know, taking it and, like you're saying, doing some introspection. Is that the posture that the Electoral Commission should have?
No, I don't think that is the posture that they should have. And I remember very well during one of these IPAC meetings, and about the figures that you are talking about, using that method to collate.
Right.
The Electoral Commission sincerely apologized for the fact that even putting down the figures, they were getting drunk, you know, in their quarters. So I think this is a lesson. They should learn it very hard and learn it very well to make sure that whenever they are coming out, they come out well. Because you see, the more mistakes you make, the more confused the people become. And then you lose the trust that the people have in you. And the elections, when you are conducting an election, people lose confidence and the trust they have in you. Then you are not on a wrong. You are on a wrong foot.
Right.
So this is an advice to them to be steadfast. They should really stand firm. And then, if there are any corrections to be made, if there's any investigation to be made to ascertain the facts, with regards to these anomalies, I think the country stands to gain. And they themselves will also be exonerated if it is found out that maybe an error or something. It is too early yet to talk about whether these things really happen. And I'm saying this because, unfortunately, Kodio didn't send many people to the field.
Right. Why?
Kodio sent just, I think about, is it 45 or something?
Why?
Well, it's due to so many factors. So we cannot say anything about these wrongs in the register because we never had any report like that. Okay? So, but of course, we have about 30,000 police stations. So if you send 50, you cannot join the people to say anything about it because you don't have any grounds to say anything. But I'm praying that with the EC coming out to say that they want to meet them, maybe something good will come out of it, and then the anomalies will be corrected.
The elections are about figures.
Yeah.
And you know, for example, in the critical elections, a crucial one like the 2024 elections, MPP wants to break the 8, NDC wants to come in. There's reset and then there's upgrade. Alan Tremantin, who's a breakaway from the MPP, also wants to, become president on the ticket of the Movement for Change. Then there's Kwame Bediako-Cheda and many others who will come after that. CPP is getting ready to get theirs. It only takes 50% plus one vote to make that determination. In the last election, the 2020 elections, we saw how many mistakes the Electoral Commission made in terms of its declaration of the results. Again, I ask you, doesn't that raise concerns that, look, maybe beyond the posture, the Electoral Commission also need to speak up if they need help?
Yes, and Kodio is doing something with the Electoral Commission. In fact, when we did the review or the post-election review, we came out with this fact about the collation at the various collation centers and the problems associated with it. For example, yesterday we met the EC. We are trying to bring out a reform that will sanitize the collation process.
Okay.
That, for example, when you make a mistake at the polling station, you tally, you give the results, you totally give it to them, and the agents go away with the results. Then later on, you discover that the additions were not right. They were wrong. What do you do? You see, and we were telling the EC, we were suggesting, we were discussing that if anything like that happens, the best way to go about it is to retally, get a new form, and we would want to call it the correction form. Then you tally, get the result right. When you get it right, you have to recall those agents that have gone away, and then attach the corrected version of the results to the original one that had a mistake on it.
Would that not be opening a can of worms? Because I want to believe that the ad hoc staff who are brought in to help the Electoral Commission to administer the elections are trained, they are remunerated, or they are rewarded in a certain or compensated for their work and efforts. And so we're looking for the best of the best, and not just anybody who comes up.
Yes,
if we're going to spend this much money, and I was looking at the nice figures that are going to be given to them for the registration exhibition and for those who are going to be returning officers themselves, and we still are getting wrong figures, then they have no business being there.
Yes, and that is the more reason why, for example, in the last election, the EC was advised to get some people with training in figures, accountants and so forth. Some of them were appointed to be collation officers. You see,
and we still got the figures wrong.
I have been in the operations room at the EC, and I think I've been there for a long time, until I retired. And what I saw was that sometimes somebody can write the results and get it wrong in figures. Get it wrong in words,
but get it right in figures. Okay.
You see, and for most of the time, what we did was to resend the wrong version of the result, maybe back to the region, for it to be retallied. You see, and what we are saying this time is that when you get it wrong the first time, so that people will believe it and there will be evidence. Let us do the corrected version on a different sheet altogether.
But was that not why, to prevent this, was that not why in the last election we had regional collation centers, which was novel as far as the last election was concerned? Regional collation centers, because I know, maybe I may be wrong, but I haven't monitored elections and also been an observer and a reporter. I know of the polling station, and then I know of the constituency collation center, sometimes it goes to the district, and then I know of the national collation center where they call the strong room.
Yes, but are you
which are fast.
aware?
So the regional collation centers were told we're supposed to fast track these processes and prevent us from having some of these slips. We had that, we spent resources, and we still got the results many times wrong.
But are you also aware that there were complaints, and at least Kodio picked at least one or two of them,
Right.
that some presiding officers could on their own accord change some figures
Right.
without the knowledge of the agents.
Right.
There was a report like that.
Right.
You see, so when it happens that way, what we are saying is that there should be a way of correcting the anomaly.
But how do they do that when they are agents of the principal, which is the Electoral Commission? The Electoral Commission has given them training, given them what to do and what not to do. And they do that. And up until now, not a single person has been prosecuted. You're talking about trust.
Yeah.
The trust comes in many different forms. The Electoral Commission has not been able to purge itself of all these things. In addition to that, there are known party people who have found themselves at the Electoral Commission as we speak. And all of that compounds the problem of mistrust.
You see, all that I'm trying to tell you is that you can have people who have ulterior motives when they enter the commission.
Right.
Sometimes the parties themselves can even fix people.
Plant people in there.
People within the EC. You see, and I'm saying that when these things happen, what is the remedial action to be taken?
Right.
Look, the EC chairperson, for example, when transmitting or announcing the results, at a point in time had a slip of tongue. Okay? And then had to do a correction later. You see, and we are saying that when these things happen, for the records, what do? We are trying to sanitize the collation center and the results tabulation process.
Right.
And the suggestion is that when these things happen, let us get a new form, rewrite the results correctly, attach it to the old one so that for records, people will not be referring to these things every now and then.
Right.
And we are seriously conversing with the EC, and I'm sure they are going to design a format that will come out, and then we all have peace.
What do you say to those who are calling for the resignation of known party people who there's enough evidence to show that they were either panelists on radio programs and TV programs in the media, on behalf of a certain political party, and now they find themselves working at the Electoral Commission? Should they be resigning now to build trust?
Very sad. You remember Kodeo sent a letter or wrote something.
Press release, yes.
And told the gentleman that in his own interest, he was to resign. He didn't do it. But you see, people are forgetting the fact that the integrity of the EC is at stake. Whenever you are appointed to the EC, you must be beyond that kind of political coloration.
Right.
You should not have anything to do with politics.
Right.
You see, and that is to strengthen the integrity and sincerity of the commission. You see, but unfortunately, people were saying that, well, when it comes to the results, the release and the calculation or whatever, a commission member cannot have any influence. But you see, they are forgetting that perception alone is enough to let the people know that, no, this thing is not genuine. When you have one person, the commission we have in Ghana is not like what we have in other countries, where you have political parties being represented on the commission. In some Francophone countries, you have some members of the commission being party members. That's represented on the... Ghana doesn't have that one.
That's right.
You see, so it means that we should have neutral people serving on the commission. You may have your political affiliation, yes, but at least in your day-to-day affairs, whatever you are doing, it should not be known that, for example, you belong to a particular party, A, B, C, or D. So honestly, I'm not too happy about it. Kodeo is not happy about it.
Have you made this known to the Electoral Commission that you're not happy about it?
No, they have read it. They have. We issued a statement. We gave them a copy.
But have you prioritized telling them in your engagements, in your meetings, for example, to have a correction sheet? Have you told them that this is what Kudeyu thinks and
the
believes?
correction sheet that I'm talking about is something it's a big topic that we are dealing with. Yesterday we were with the EC.
Right.
We met the EC yesterday.
But I'm saying that have you prioritized this call to have persons who have party coloration resign? Have you made it a priority?
You see, and I've always been saying that the EC itself maybe one day should purge itself of these things. You have put somebody on our commission, and we think that we know, we have heard, for example, that this man belongs to party A, B, or C. So maybe we cannot work with him. But you see, would they be bold to come out to say it? That is the question. You see? Maybe they themselves. I've been saying that always to myself, that the EC maybe should also say that, okay, you have given us this particular person. We've heard that he belongs to this party. So please, if you can quickly withdraw that person, because we are not happy with it, it will tarnish our reputation. That would be nice for it to come from the EC.
Well, but the EC, all the persons at the EC are appointed by somebody.
Yes, but the EC...
Now, if we come together, you're an appointee, I'm an appointee, then I start pointing, accusing fingers at you.
But they can come out as they are a group of people, and they have their reputation at stake. We are all neutral people who have come together. And if it is a well-established fact that you have come to join us with this kind of coloration, maybe you are tarnishing our reputation.
This would appeal to their conscience, because as a matter of law and within the legal framework, they cannot do that. No self-correcting mechanisms currently at the EC. So it's a matter of appealing to their conscience, right?
Maybe. Maybe. But you see, the appointing authority is the one to know that the commission we have in Ghana is not that type where you can put in people who have affiliation to parties. No, we don't have that one. In some countries, they are there, they go to meetings with them, and everybody knows it's part of the law. But in our law, we don't have it. You see, so that perception alone, it's not even a question of going into an election and assisting the commission to do one or two things wrong or whatever. But the people themselves, the citizenry, are of the view that I know Mr. A is affiliated to this party, and at a point in time even came on air and did one or two things. So being with the commission is not good for the commission's image.
Okay, we'll take a break here. 3 minutes, top of the hour at 9:30. When we return from this break, I'm sure Helen will have a thing or two to say about the going topic, and then we will come back to the conversation about what you, as a citizen, expect of the stakeholders, Electoral Commission, NCC, Kudeyu, the police, security institutions, and the Electoral Commission itself, and all others. Stay with us here on Sunrise on 3FM 92.7. Also remember that the big launch of our Election Command Center is today, Thursday, the 29th of August 2024, and you're warmly invited to join us on our social media handles. Hashtag is Election Command Center. Also to join us on TV, on TV3, Connect FM 97.1 in Takoradi, and on 3FM 92.7 here in Accra. See you shortly after the break.
The luckiest star 712 hash. Luck is everywhere for everyone, yeah.
Here's to the friends who dialed star 712 hash and found no regrets. To the investors who struck gold. To the health workers who diagnosed luck with precision. To the tough guy who couldn't hold back his tears. To the passionate fan who couldn't contain his joy. To the seamstress who turned her hard-earned stitches into a bundle of happiness. And now, here's to you. Your next big win is right here.
Luck is everywhere for everyone.
Dial star 712 hash. Now join in the luckiest winning celebration. Every 1st July 2024. Over dial star 712 hash. Now I can to tickets as a group, individual, and now even as a community. Now win is the prizes are in the community draw or go for the grand draw on the 30th of November 2024. Unlock your luck with star 712 hash. Now join in the winning streak now.
The luckiest
star 712 hash.
Luck is everywhere for everyone, yeah. The luckiest.
Choboy! We have a new leader in town. Obiarenti. Amafo. Madam was Sibebre. When him say my baby, maybe more charcoal for whiter teeth. More charcoal. Not only that, maybe lemon. More lemon. Zinc for fresher breath. More zinc. And fluoride for stronger teeth.
Introducing the new President Charcoal Pack with more power with a combination of charcoal and lemon for naturally whiter teeth. Grab yours now. This advert is FDA approved.
The best in the morning is on 92.7 Sunrise on 3FM. The best in the morning is on 92.7 Sunrise on 3FM.
Follow us on social media. Twitter at 3FM 927. Facebook at 3FM 927. And also on 3news.com.
what your plans are towards the elections in terms of election monitoring or observation, and then how widespread that will be, given the fact that you mentioned not so long ago that you sent only 45 or so people out there. What do you say?
Yes, for the main election, we intend to go into the field with about 4,000 observers. And they will be doing the observation.
Right.
We shall also be doing the PVT in addition to the normal observation that we do. So the number is beefed up, and we believe we're going to cover much ground with both people roaming and others sedentary at the various police stations.
Are you going to do your parallel coalition sessions?
We're going to do it, as usual. Since 2008, we haven't stopped. It's always something that we do.
I thank you very much indeed for your attention this morning. We're grateful, and I'm sure you're going into the executive theatre for the big launch, which will happen. So I want you to be seated comfortably in a good place. But thank you very much indeed, Mr. Ahin.
It's my pleasure being here.
We're always grateful. Always grateful to have you. Yeah, Mr. Albert Ahin there of Kudeo. Helen, what do you think?
Yes, main takeaway, Mr. Ahin said that the more mistakes that are made by the EC, the more the confidence of the people dwindle. There have been a few issues, maybe more than a few issues, that have to come to some type of logical conclusion so that all of us can sleep easy. I think it's too close to time for some of these issues to not be ironed out. The EC is seeking to meet with the NDC, who have several gripes with the process so far. So we wait to see, but this is something that is urgent and something that has a great impact, of course, on the election. So we're keeping our eyes and ears on the ground.
Our eyes and ears certainly on the ground. Roland Walker is out there, the Kwame Nkrumah Circle, engaging some constituents and some people out there on the street. I mentioned to you earlier that this election and the coverage of same is about you being at the center and being at the forefront. So now let's turn the microphones to you and ask you quickly, please keep it short and simple, and you tell us what you're expecting from the key stakeholders. The key stakeholders, i.e. being the police, the military, if they have to be called in to support BNI or NIB. We're talking about EC itself, NCCE, Codeo, civil society organizations that spread across the media. What will be your expectations? The political parties themselves and Peace Council and all of that. Tell me what your expectations will be. Or are 055-924-2717 and 055-691-0154. 055-924-2717 and 055-691-0154. Your expectations from the key stakeholders on how we achieve a clean, credible, free and fair election 2024 to get the next president and set of parliamentarians to steer the affairs of the country from the executive and from the legislature. You want to join us now with your thoughts and comments on 055-924-2717 and 055-691-0154. That's 055-924-2717 and 055-691-0154. Know that very soon we'll unveil the official logo for the Election Command Center for this year's election, and then also you see the faces and the personalities behind the Election Command Center. You also get to see the individuals who largely will be interacting with to bring their expertise and experience to bear on what we do on 3FM 92.7 on TV3 and on Connect FM 97.1 in Takoradi as well. Helen, I know that I've bothered you too many times asking you questions about expectations again. We're talking about food before we went to Mr. Ahin to speak with him briefly. We've been joined also by Beatrice Edu. Beatrice, good morning.
Good morning, Johnny. How are you?
I am greater than Accra. You seem to be in very high spirits for the big day today.
I mean, it's a great day. A great day of showcasing that we are here to give Ghanaians not just objective but comprehensive and credible election coverage. And so obviously it's such a great day, and we will want everyone to give us the attention, because we are here to give them the objective, comprehensive and credible election coverage.
Right, absolutely. And this is your Election Command Center, the big launch coming up in a bit.